Welcome to CBS Sports' continuing coverage of the road to the Final Four, everyone. I'm Greg Gumbel, along with Clark Kellogg and the coach, Dean Smith. We will tip off our primetime doubleheader in Hartford with a much-awaited East meeting between 12th seed UNLV, the WAC tournament champion, and number 5 Princeton, the highest NCAA tournament seed ever from the Ivy League. Others will see an East clash from the nation's capital as the 7th-seeded Indiana Hoosiers look to rebound from 3 straight first-round defeats in the NCAA tournament against 10th seed Oklahoma. And Indiana coach Bob Knight has paid his $10,000 fine. He will be on the sidelines. In our other early games, it's a classic 8-9 game in the West as Tennessee faces Illinois State. Also in the West, 14th seed San Francisco meets number 3 Utah. And among our 10 o'clock Eastern doubleheader games, East 2nd seed UConn faces Fairleigh Dickinson, and West top seed Arizona, the defending national champion coach, goes up against Nicholls State.
And this is the first chance to move forward and repeat as champions, and Nicholls State may be the easiest of those steps.
All right, meanwhile, UConn against Fairleigh Dickinson, how's that matchup, Clark?
Well, UConn probably the youngest team of your top 8 seeds in the tournament, but what they lack in experience, they more than make up for with depth and talent and confidence. They use their defense to create pace, and they're very good when they can play in a game in the 80s or 90s.
All right, guys, one score to bring you up to date on, a game that ended a short while ago out in Sacramento. The 5th seed Fighting Illini of Illinois, 64-51 winners over South Alabama. Illinois, 13 steals in this game, contributing to 20 Jaguars turnovers overall. Illinois now advances to meet Maryland. The road to the Final Four will continue after this word from your local station. We'll see UNLV face Princeton, and those of you expecting to see San Francisco against Utah, we'll start you on that game, but send you out to Boise for your tip at 7:55. Others will see Oklahoma against Indiana. Now, the Illinois State-Tennessee audience will start on that game, but we will take you to your game in time for the tip at 7:50. We invite you to enjoy the games, everyone.
CBS Sports' exclusive coverage of the NCAA Basketball Championship is sponsored by Genuine Chevrolet, Taco Bell, AT&T, and by Bud Light.
There's the pass to Leitner. We're going to overtime. Simon says championship.
The Hartford Civic Center, where March Madness is taking center stage. Hartford, site of the first and second rounds of the East region. Tonight, it's 5th-seeded Princeton against the 12th-seeded Runnin' Rebels from UNLV. And the brackets from Hartford. North Carolina advancing. They beat Navy today. They face UNC Charlotte in the second round. They defeated Illinois Chicago. Hello, everybody. Gus Johnson along with John Sunbold. What a year it's been for the Princeton Tigers. They come into this game ranked, seeded 5th, the highest seed for a Ivy League team ever. They ended the regular year ranked 8th in the nation. Steve Goodrich is their best player, but unfamiliar situation for them. That's because they come into this game as the favorites.
Yeah, they do, and Steve Goodrich, the Ivy League Player of the Year, can score from the inside. He's great on the post, but from the outside he hits in jump shots. And the thing you'll see tonight, he is the second in assists. He's great on the backdoor pass. For UNLV, Tyrone Nesby has been outstanding down the stretch in the WAC tournament. Hit big shots against Utah, big shots against New Mexico. Very athletic. Princeton hasn't seen a player like this for a couple of months.
And the starting lineups. We start with the lower-seeded Rebels, Nesby, Simmons, Kambala, Keefe, and Dickel in the backcourt. And Princeton, Llewellys, Mustalio, Goodrich, Henderson, Earl in the backcourt. And the officials, Det Valentine, Tim Gaputero, and Steve Olson. And we're underway, and the tip controlled by Princeton, and the ball kicked out of bounds by UNLV. There's Bill Baino, the head coach at UNLV, 3rd year. 22-10 last season, a longtime assistant to John Calipari when he was at UMass.
UNLV opens up man-to-man, Gus, and it was their 2-3 zone that was successful in the WAC tournament and why they won those ball games. So it will be interesting. They didn't think they could zone Princeton because of their outside shooting. We'll see if they can stay with the backdoor cuts.
16 on the shot clock. Here's the patience by Princeton. In the half-court set, Llewellyn. Henderson pull up 15-footer, and it rattled down.
And the key on the offensive end for Princeton is the spacing, and they open up with pressure. A turnover right off the bat.
They turn it over. And Kumbala, a Latvian-born player, with the rebound.
And it looked like it surprised the Rebels early.
UNLV, probably no team hotter in the country than the Rebels. They won 4 games in 5 days to win the WAC tournament championship. They've won 6 in a row as they advanced to the NCAAs for the first time since '91, when they went to the Final Four, led by Larry Johnson and company. Tyrone Nesby shot in and out, and here come the Tigers once again.
And Princeton wants to allow UNLV just one shot. They worry about the board work and the athletic ability of the Rebel ball club.
Henderson lost it, picked up by Llewellyn.
Henderson quicker off the dribble than most people would think. Very good athlete, good shooter, but will beat most people off the dribble. He surprises them with his athletic ability.
Here's Goodrich, the conference player of the year in the Ivy League. No backdoor open this time for Llewellyn. Read perfectly by Mark Dickel.
Yeah, give Mark Dickel credit. He was the help side man, and he stepped in the way of the cutter.
Bill Carmody, second year at Princeton, the second best record ever by a second-year coach. He's 50-5 as he replaced the great Pete Carrill. Dickel to the basket, finger roll short. And Earl comes out with it. Princeton 26-1, 14-0 in the Ivy League. Their only loss to the North Carolina Tar Heels.
Well, Princeton hasn't played in 8 days. And we'll see if they're a little rusty or if they're well rested. They're off to a good start tonight.
And Gabe Llewellyn nailing the 3, 5-0. The Tigers taking the early lead, and they press full court. Kevin Simmons down the baseline. So the junior from Brooklyn, New York, gets UNLV on the board.
Again, the press looks as though it has surprised the Rebels early. They have not been in position. That time, Simmons should have been at half court, but he backed off, and Dickel made a good pass up the floor.
Llewellyn again from way downtown, and it's picked up by Dickel. UNLV trying to push it up the court. Dickel has 12 assists and 1 turnover in their championship game in the WAC against New Mexico.
Well, you mentioned the hottest team in the tournament, UNLV. They've traveled a long way. They played 4 games in 5 nights. They won all of them, and they're all close battles. You don't know if fatigue would be a factor. I wouldn't think it would be tonight because of the excitement of the ball game.
Here's Earl. And so far, UNLV 1 for 4 from the field. Dickel. Nesbitt down the lane, double clutched, and a blocking foul. Called on Steve Goodrich.
That's the athletic ability we talked about, Tyrone Nesby. He can penetrate. He gets, when teams try to get in the way, he's good enough to shift his body so it's not a charge. As he goes over, kind of adjusts as he takes off. Goodrich tried to slide over.
Tyrone Nesby, a senior from Cairo, Illinois. Made the all-WAC tournament team, first team all-conference. And the first free throw by the 6'6" senior is good.
He answered every time they needed a big basket. In the Utah game, he hit the big three-pointer to put him ahead. Just over a minute left, then he made big free throws with a few seconds left. New Mexico championship game, it was his jumper that put them in the lead with only a minute to go.
So he got a pair, 5-4, 16:32 to go in the first half. Now coming up, some of you will go out west to see San Francisco and Utah. That game tipping off at 7:55.
Now the Rebels in their 2-3 zone, Gus. This is where they were successful and have been for the last few weeks, especially in the WAC tournament. They are long, they're quick to the ball, they will challenge shooters.
Princeton has to hit jump shots. The back door's not working as well in the 2-3, and the Tigers turn the ball over. A rare turnover for them, John. They only average 10 per game.
Yeah, that's amazing. They know how to handle the ball. It's a team that's played together for a few years. Their second turnover already tonight. Talking to Bill Carmody, he said, you know, we've been together, and the fact is my players, they've just gotten better every year. Sometimes that doesn't happen. But this group of kids, every year they come back, they're better, and they are so used to playing with each other.
Every player on the floor for Princeton participated in their big upset over UCLA 2 years ago when they knocked off the defending champs in Indianapolis 43-41, and a traveling violation by Kaspers Kumbala. 15:43 to go. We've got a one-point game from Hartford. Of the NCAA tournament, already 3 upsets. Temple throttled by West Virginia. Washington picks off Xavier, and the biggest for the second year, South Carolina upset in the first round. Richmond did it to them this year.
John Beeline's got to be happy tonight, and his Richmond, they will face Washington. Bob Bender, they snuck one over Xavier.
Well, here come the Tigers leading at 5-4. Henderson, Earl in the backcourt, Goodrich, Mustalio, and Llewellyn in the front court.
Token pressure, just kind of a nuisance, so to speak.
And they get back into the 2-3.
Not trying to make steals. They want to be aggressive. Princeton, terrific on the outside game of shooting the basketball. We watched them yesterday where they hit 13 in a row when they came out and did shooting drills from above the top of the key, just one after another. Each guy on the team just knocked them in.
Henderson to Gabe Llewellyn, who hit the game-winning shot on a backdoor play from Goodrich against UCLA 2 years ago.
And Llewellyn probably has the greatest range, Gus, in shooting the basketball. He'll step behind the pro line.
One to shoot. Henderson from up top off the side of the rim. Rebounded by Simmons. Here come the running Rebels. Crossover. Nesby to the bucket. Up and under. How about that?
How sweet is that? Nesby shaking, moving. You know what, though? You have to convert that because you play defense for 34 seconds. If you're going to shoot it in the first 4 or 5, you better make one.
6-0 run for UNLV. They lead it 6-5. Under 15 to go in the first half of play. Princeton seeded number 5, the highest seed ever by an Ivy League team. UNLV number 12. In the corner, Llewellyn. And a rebound by Simmons.
Tigers are cold, Gus, from the outside.
2 of 7. Key running jump shot on the baseline, and he popped it in. And there's a guy, Brian Keefe, a junior from Winchester, Mass., playing great basketball during tournament time.
Yeah, 16 against Fresno State, 18 against New Mexico. His outside game has been what's impressive. This time he hits a little runner down low.
Has 13 threes in the WAC tournament. 16 to shoot. And UNLV still packing it in on that zone.
They have to make sure they have hands up around the outside just to distract the shooters a little bit.
Backdoor, there's Earl.
Boy, how about the pass, and then maybe even more impressive the finish.
But you see backdoor plays, John, on zone defenses as well.
Usually don't see as many, but they made a good cut there.
Don't forget, some of you will see San Francisco and Utah out west at 7:55, and there he is. Brian Keefe, remember, 13 threes in the WAC tournament. He is on fire from downtown Layton.
Yeah, he hit 6 bombs against New Mexico, only missed 3. UNLV team that really shot the ball poorly in the tournament. 33% from the field, but they shot 45 from three-point line.
UNLV, they've outscored the Tigers 11-2 in the last 4 minutes and 30 seconds.
So as they come up on the 13-minute mark, UNLV with a 4-point lead on Princeton. We'll keep you updated on the progress of that game. But those of you pointed to the west, to Boise, Idaho, Jim Durham and Greg Kelser are standing by to bring you the first-round game in the west between San Francisco and Utah.
We're at the pavilion with a sellout crowd here at Boise State. 14th seeded San Francisco and number 3 Utah. Earlier this afternoon, the West Virginia Mountaineers upset Temple, winning by 30, and Northern Arizona almost got Cincinnati. The Bearcats won by 3. So, Greg Kelser, let me ask you, can San Francisco be as competitive with Utah in this one?
Why not? After all, they come in with quickness. They'll have the advantage in that department. Utah's the bigger team. But I think the San Francisco feels very good because they won their conference championship, which gives them a flavor for what tournament play is all about.
And the MVP of that conference tournament was Hakeem Ward.
Well, Hakeem Ward is undersized, just 6 feet 6 inches tall, plays in the middle, but usually comes up with some of his better games against bigger people, and he'll see big people all night against Utah.
One of those bigger people he will see will be 6'11" Michael Doliak.
Well, you know, Michael Doliak played really in the shadow of last year's All-America Keith Van Horn, but he has emerged brilliantly this year. The unquestioned leader of this team can do a lot, and they'll try to keep him busy, especially in the post.
San Francisco just returning to basketball prominence. Oh, but there was a time, a little over 40 years, when they were something. With more on that, let's go to Mike Mayock.
Thanks, Jim. You know, there's 2 national championship banners already hanging in Memorial Gym from the 55 and 56 teams, led, of course, by Casey Jones and Bill Russell. But in 1982, the program was suspended due to repeated recruiting violations. The Don resurgence was led by the new head coach, Phil Matthews, who's done a great job bringing them back. Now, moments ago, I asked Coach Matthews, what's the last thing he's going to tell the kids? He said, hey, same thing I always tell them, play hard. And with number 14 seed Richmond already upsetting the number 3 seed South Carolina, hey, Jim, anything can happen tonight.
Well, that almost happened here this afternoon with number 2 seed Cincinnati and the 15 seed Northern Arizona. Philip Matthews, in his 3rd season at San Francisco, sends the Dons out with Cantrell, Ward, and Campbell up front. Ollie Thomas and Donnie Wilcher in the backcourt. Rick Majerus huddled up with his Utah Utes in his 9th season. A 78% winning percentage. Hanno Metala from Helsinki at 1 forward spot at 6'10". Alex Jensen at 6'7". We talked about Michael Doliak at 6'11". So you can see the size up front. Drew Hansen and Andre Miller in the backcourt for the Utes. San Francisco leads this series 7-2. And in NCAA meetings way back in the San Francisco heyday when they were winning their titles, they defeated Utah in 55 and 56. The officials working this one, Gene Manji, Michael Foote, and Joseph Pescatelli. Underway with game 3 from this West region. San Francisco controlling the tip. This is Cantrell, 21.
Utah opens up man-to-man defense.
And San Francisco goes perimeter immediately as Donnie Wilcher hits a 3.
And San Francisco coming with some full court pressure. They'll do that on occasion, especially after made baskets.
Wilcher almost the steal from Doliak. Metala with a touch. Number 50 is Jensen. Andre Miller finding Doliak. Loose ball recovered by Metala for the basket. And already the Dons on the attack. Ward is fouled by Doliak.
You know, Ward, as we talked about, quickness favors San Francisco, and Ward can get up and down the floor. He'll beat Doliak down the floor, and if San Francisco can get it out and get it up quick, he'll get some early opportunities. Now, there's a fight for the rebound between a couple of Don basketball players, but it ends up right in the hands of Metala, and he's able to give Utah a tie in this game.
Hakeem Ward at 6'6", 230. He plays a little bigger than he is around the basket.
I stand corrected. Actually, Metala pulled Utah to within 1.
And Ward trying to salvage the second free throw. The Dons with a 2-point lead. Hansen to make the inbounds pass for the Utes against full court pressure. Hansen gets it across. Andre Miller finding Metala. Knocked away, and the Dons a steal. Man, they've got some quick hands in there.
They've got quick hands, and they will double down in that post to try to give Hakeem Ward a little help. They're not going to allow him to be dominated one-on-one by the larger youth.
Thomas brings the ball to Wilcher. Ward fires. Andre Miller, the Utah rebound.
The problem with Ward, when he takes that turnaround jumper from 14 feet, he eliminates himself as an offensive rebounder, and you won't see San Francisco get that many second chances when he's out there.
That's Drew Hansen stepping up, his first two. Utah pulls even. Utah won its first 18 games this year, 25-3 coming into this one. Against the San Francisco team looking for its 20th win, the Dons turn it over. Jensen saves and comes back out front to Metala. That one's thrown away.
Utah's a seasoned basketball team, very tournament experienced, but have only played one game in the last 3 weeks, so maybe a little bit rusty as they start this tournament.
UNLV took them out in the WAC tournament. 4-4 tie. Wiltshire. Campbell with 20 to shoot. Ollie Thomas.
Tough shot. Thomas came off the screen, caught it, and shot it almost in one motion. Never really got his feet set.
Utah doing a good job on the boards. And they get the layup as Michael Doliak works his way to the hoop. Up court to Ward, overthrown, out of bounds to Utah.
You can clearly see that San Francisco wants to run the ball up the floor. However, they have got to be better in making their decisions as to when to run and when to slow it down. Now, Doliak, we said he lacks quickness, but he has excellent footwork inside. When he catches it in the post, he'll put on a post clinic if you're not careful.
Utah has scored the last four. The Utes in possession, leading by 2. Jensen to help out with a press. Drew Hansen. They get a corner shot. Jensen missed on the 3, but Metala the rebound. Now it comes down to San Francisco. Wiltshire works his way through traffic but lost the ball.
See, Wilshire's made a couple of bad decisions in transition. They want to get Utah, San Francisco, that is, they'd like to get into a 94-foot game, up and down, but they've got to do it smart.
They're going to have a problem with it unless they can control that defensive backboard. Be tough to get the running game going. Campbell missed, Ward unable to control.
Both teams look a little tired right now as they labor up and down the floor.
We've played not quite 4 minutes. And it's Hansen for 3. Drew Hansen with 5 points early.
Hansen's a good outside shooter, almost 50% from three-point land, so you want to make sure he's always covered when he's standing on the strike.
Utah has scored the last 7. San Francisco taking a 20-second timeout. 16:05 left in the half.
Excellent ball movement. Now look at all the room that Hansen has. San Francisco, they try to close on him late, but the ball's already in the air and going through the net. Again, you've got to be able to recognize who the deep threats are. Make sure they've got a hand in the face.
Utah shoots very well from three-point range, 383. And the Utes have David Jackson in the game now, number 3. And they also come with Jordy McTavish, number 11. Jamal Combs, number 12, in for San Francisco. Jamal Cobbs, I should say. And this is Thomas missing for 3 and an offensive rebound to the Dons. Cantrell, Thomas. Ward with a hook move. Hakeem Ward has his first field goal.
It's a nice move inside by Ward, who's not going to be intimidated, even though the player he's playing against, Doliak and sometimes Metala, they're both much taller than he is.
Caton in the lineup, number 21. The Utes have scored 7 of the last 9. Their lead is 9-6. Metala missing. Ward rips down the rebound.
Snatched it down. In the game right now for the Dons as Ward makes his move inside. Cobb, number 12, he's on the floor because he's not going to turn the ball over nearly as much. Wiltshire made some bad decisions in transition, so they get him out of there, get Cobb in, and let him run the team for a while.
They also have Nadillo in the lineup, number 11, and that's Caton with an open look. And on the rebound, a foul on Utah. Here's a look at Hakeem Ward with a nice move out of the post. Timeout, 14:41 for the half.
Half, UNLV with a 5-point lead on Princeton, and we'll keep you updated on the progress of that game at the top of your screen. Meanwhile, let's tell you what's going on in Washington, D.C. In white, the Indiana Hoosiers are leading Oklahoma. It's a good thing for Bob Knight to be on the sidelines for the Hoosiers tonight.
He coughed up that 10K, and he's right there courtside. His team off to a strong shooting start, and that's a good indicator and barometer for IU. When they've shot the ball well, it seems to pick up their defensive intensity as well.
Oklahoma has lost 4 straight NCAA tournament opening games. Bob Knight has lost 3 straight. Something's got to give in this game.
That's exactly right. And Oklahoma typically mixes their defenses. Right now, they're having a tough time tagging IU shooters.
You know, when you get a team that has fallen into a losing streak like that, is that tough to overcome?
I don't think so, because your personnel changes. It's typically not the same team that's coming back to these consecutive tournaments that struggle.
All right, Gus, so Indiana with a 27-19 lead now. Meanwhile, first round game in the West at Sacramento. Illinois State and the Volunteers of Tennessee, and Tennessee holding a lead at this point, 13-8.
They've got 2 outstanding guards in Wharton and Harrison. Wharton having a big half so far. I think he's already got 9, and they lead 17-10. And when you've got excellent guard play, Greg, we've talked about it throughout the day. Tournament basketball, 1 and out. If you've got outstanding guards, you always have a chance to be in games.
You know, it's amazing to think, you know, the long history of the Volunteers of Tennessee. It's hard to imagine this is their first appearance in this tournament in 9 years.
Yeah, they had a dry spout, but Jerry Green has this team turned around. They're confident, and again, their backcourt is very, very good.
They're coming up on the 13-minute mark in Sacramento, and Tennessee holding a 17-10 lead on Illinois State as the whistle blows and brings play to a halt there. Now, in Boise, Idaho, first-round game in the West, the Dons of San Francisco against Utah. Utah wearing the white jerseys, and just coming out of a timeout, Utah with a 3-point lead. And again, we talked about this earlier in the day. What a great story it is for San Francisco back in the tournament.
San Francisco's program was shut down for a couple of years in the early 80s. They've been back at it now for a while, and this is their first trip in the tournament since 1982. They give up an awful lot of size to Utah. They try to negate that size disadvantage by playing aggressively, pressing and trapping. But I think it's going to be tough for them to force Utah to turn it over, because Andre Miller is an outstanding point guard. He knows how to get the ball to their key people.
Utah coach Rick Majerus is 6-0 in all-time first-round games, but his team started slowly and just executed a 7-2 mini run.
The key is for them not to turn it over and establish their inside game.
All right, meanwhile, we'll take you back to Hartford, Connecticut. UNLV and Princeton, the running Rebels by 2. Let's rejoin Gus and John.
Utah leading at 13-11.
Game summary, Princeton on a 14-0 run. UNLV has not scored a basket in close to 6 minutes.
Yeah, and on the Princeton side, they were 1 of 7 from three-point land. Now they've hit 6 straight, so numbers are going up for the Tigers.
UNLV substitution number 31, Isaiah Epps, replaces Donovan Stewart.
2:50 to go, 29-20.
Replaces Steve Goodrich.
And UNLV, they need an easy basket. Here's Simmons, lost it on the floor, picked up by Bellin. 8 turnovers for the Rebels.
Steve Goodrich is out of the lineup. He picked up his 2nd personal before that timeout, so he'll sit the rest of this half.
Now UNLV in the man-to-man, and Princeton throws it away. So Bill Bano forced to get out of it. He's been getting calls from some of his friends from the coaching world telling him to play man-to-man against Princeton instead of a zone.
Those coaches you called, they're probably not in the tournament already.
Simmons
must be at home trying to call it.
Baseline, can't get the bounce, picked up by Henderson.
UNLV, Gus, has to convert those inside attempts. They get the ball down that low. You can't afford to miss this many shots against this team.
155 and counting, 9-point lead.
The key on the offensive end for Princeton, look at the spacing against a man-to-man defense. They allow the lanes to be able to cut, they lull you to sleep, then they make a real hard cut and put the passes right on the money.
Here's Henderson. Llewellyn rocks it in front, got to the hole, and a whistle and a blocking foul.
Simmons thought he was in position. He saw Llewellyn coming down the lane, but you see him slide over. Good move by Llewellyn to kind of go to the side as he penetrates.
So Gabe Llewellyn, Bill Bano not pleased with the call. Llewellyn, the junior from Allentown, Pennsylvania, a 71% free throw shooter, is 11 first-half points. Trying to extend the Princeton lead to double digits. Llewellyn came up short on the first one.
Surprising he's only 72% free throw shooter. As well as he strokes the ball when you watch him warm up and shoot the ball.
Second one coming up, and he missed the pair. Rebounded by Kevin Simmons, number 8 for him in the first half. Nesby wide open, thought about it too long, and the rebound goes to Mason Rocca.
The crowd might have talked him out of that one, Gus, because when he caught it, the crowd actually thought he traveled.
Rocca in the high post. Henderson got the step to the bucket, count it, and the foul.
And that is quick off the dribble, strong to the hole. We talked about the athletic ability of Mitch Henderson. The catch, he put it right on the floor, surprised the defender right when he catches the ball. The head fake one way, and then the penetration. Good enough to draw contact.
So Mitch Henderson, second team All-Ivy League. He broke his nose against Yale, and instead of leaving the game, he missed about 5 minutes, came back with a face mask, used it, didn't like it, tossed it away, and he hasn't used it since. So a tough young man from Culver, Indiana as well. And he adds the free throw. 32-20, 17-0 run for the Princeton Tigers. 1:09 to go.
Well, we keep saying the Rebels need a basket, but unsuccessful lately. Keefe has not been able to get good looks, and now a turnover, and Princeton in total control.
Now coming up on Pennzoil at the half, Greg Gumbel, Clark Kellogg, Dean Smith. We'll get you updated on all the tournament news, all the scores and highlights, plus a live look at all the action going on in the NCAA tournament at Pennzoil at the half. An 8-minute drought for UNLV. Princeton up 32-20, under a minute to go in the first half of play.
And what becomes difficult, the man-to-man defense, the big players takes the big UNLV players away from the basket. Earl knocks in another one.
And they are driving a stake through the hearts of the running Rebels right now. When you look at UNLV, they have that confused look on their face.
Boy, 8 minutes. Unbelievable. And in the meantime, those 8 minutes, Princeton has been outstanding on the offensive end.
Dickel, Nesby. Here's Simmons, and finally at the end of the half, they snap a 20-0 run. However, now you know why Princeton is ranked 8th in the country.
Take a look at the fadeaway. A tough shot, but Simmons there for the rebound, and this frustrated Bill Carmody. If they'd have held him that may give the Rebels a little bit of momentum.
Let's check in with Armin Katayan.
Bill, a 20-2 run at the end, but was it the defense that was driving or something else?
Well, the first 10 minutes we didn't play any defense. We tightened up after that, and then we made shots. You know, we got to make shots to play, and we made some shots, so that's why it's where it is.
Great. Thanks a lot, Bill.
They certainly made shots, 8 of 14 from the three-point line in the first half. That's the end with the score 35-22 Princeton. CBS Sports exclusive coverage of the NCAA tournament will continue after this message and a word from your local station.
Clark Kellogg says there's action all over the place, and we'll bring you up to date shortly.
CBS Sports presents Pennzoil at the Half, sponsored by Pennzoil, specially formulated for today's stop-and-go driving. Stop, go, Pennzoil.
Welcome, everyone, back to our studios in New York. Greg Gumbel along with Clark Kellogg and Dean Smith. And the game that you are watching now is a dandy, especially for the Princeton Tigers. The Tigers, with a 20-2 run at the end of the first half, have taken a 35-22 lead. Meanwhile, first-round game in Washington, D.C., the Indiana Hoosiers with a 10-point lead, 45 seconds remaining in the first half. Let's send you out there now and catch the rest of the first half, joining Sean McDonough and Bill Raftery.
45.6 seconds remaining in the first half. Oklahoma by 10, and Charlie Miller is at the line. He's shooting 2.
A clinic on motion offense and making shots. They've had good opportunities, good action with their screens.
For Indiana, number 4, Luke Recker returns, replacing
Indiana, most years it makes more free throws than the other team attempts, their opponents attempt. That's certainly been the case by a wide margin here tonight.
Most of the good teams. Duke gets into that league as well. For a long time without Wiley, too, so he's a key guy for Oklahoma.
Evan Wiley has been on the bench with 3 fouls. Spalding has come in for the first time, number 44 for Oklahoma. Allison's shot never did get above the rim. Out of bounds. It'll be Indiana ball.
Allison a little bit upset. He was standing out of bounds when he touched it. You think you got an easy one. Right there. I guess the heel was on the line.
20-second timeout has been called by Indiana. The Hoosiers have shot 65% from the floor here in the first half. The floor is where Patterson wound up. Earlier today here in Washington, D.C., the University of Washington Huskies won their first tournament game since 1984 by 1 point over the 6th seed Xavier. And then Richmond, in a great back-and-forth battle with South Carolina, prevailed by 1. And round 2 here on Saturday, the top of the bracket has the 11 seed against the 14 seed.
And at 22nd, they get Recker in the game, so they got another threat outside. It's all motion, so if there's some switching or some jamming, it may not be Recker with the jump shot. See what they got going. A little change in the D, Sean. A little box some more, maybe? Yep, they got a little box.
Shot clock is off. 3 seconds left in the half. Patterson the miss. And it's halftime. Indiana heads to the locker room with an 11-point advantage, matching the largest lead of the first half for the Hoosiers. A.J. Guyton at 14 points in the first half for Indiana. Corey Brewer at 12 for Oklahoma. Here's Andrea Joyce.
Coach, a solid first half. Your team shot 65%. Are you pleased, though, with the defensive effort?
Well, I'm pleased that you're such a good mathematician. I thought that we did, Andrea. I thought that we played as well as I could hope that we could play in the first half.
You had expressed some concern yesterday about the way that your team has been finishing games and not finishing strong enough. What can you say to them in the locker room at halftime to help sustain the momentum?
What we've got is, and the same with Oklahoma, we have a 20-minute game to play now. And whoever...
6 and Oklahoma 35. Greg Gumbel, Clark Kellogg, and Dean Smith will be along with Pennzoil at the half right after this message and a word from your local station.
Welcome back, everyone. A year ago, Indiana surrendered 46 first-half points en route to a first-round loss to Colorado. Tonight, they scored 46 in the first half, and they lead Oklahoma 46-35. Meanwhile, out in Boise, first-round matchup between San Francisco and Utah. 4:50 to play in the first half. The Utes lead it by 6. Let's go out there and join Jim Durham and Greg Kelser.
Here at Boise, a very competitive game between Utah and San Francisco. The basket is good on that move inside by David Jackson.
You know, some teams just move in the offensive set. Some teams don't move at all.
Right.
But here, Utah, they move with a purpose. Every screen is set to get a player open. And when you cut to the basketball like you really want it, sometimes you'll get opportunities. And Jackson able to check to get the three-point opportunity that he didn't cash in on.
Actually, that was Britton Johnson who missed on the free throw, so it's back to an 8-point lead, the largest of the half for the Utes. Jensen rips down the rebound. Just about 4 minutes left.
Once again, San Francisco falls back.
So 31-23, Utah in the lead on San Francisco. Meanwhile, in Sacramento, another first-round game in the West. Illinois State trailing Tennessee 34-30, and that's with 3:17 to play in the first half. Second half action coming up in Hartford. Stay tuned. The road to the Final Four continues here on CBS right after this.
Pennzoil at the Half has been sponsored by Pennzoil, specially formulated for today's stop-and-go driving. Stop, go, Pennzoil.
Figured going in, they'd own it on the inside, Greg.
Oh, big time. Look at the bottom stat right there. 16-2 in the paint. Most of that Metala and Doliak. Just 5 of 21 shooting right now for San Francisco, but Utah doing exactly what they should do. When you got guys that big and talented inside, you get them the basketball.
San Francisco getting after it a little bit defensively after the timeout. Metala finding Hansen. Thomas has him. Caton swings to Jensen. Here goes Hansen all the way. Drew Hansen has 10.
And he's done it inside and out. He's got a couple of threes to go down. Henson's very, very solid in this first half offensively. And Utah, you have to marvel at their defense.
Ward is able to score on Metala.
Well, finally, Ward got the basketball and was able to move in the post. He was able to go somewhere on the floor, and thus he did not have much of a problem scoring over the top of Metala. But we haven't seen enough of that.
Caton fought a second time and still hit the three.
Man, really makes it tough to key on any one guy, because when you're playing Utah, they can all hurt you.
Usually when a guy hesitates, he misses on that attempt. San Francisco has gone cold over the last 8.5. 2 for 12. The 11-point lead for the Utes, the biggest so far. Thomas on the miss. Cobbs for 3.
That's his third three-pointer of the game, Cobbs. And really, they'd be in a lot of trouble if he weren't available, because he's been very consistent for San Francisco.
Miller gets behind the defense. Yep, and a foul.
Not a good foul. Not a good foul at all.
Nodillo called for the foul.
Foul on number.
At this point, Utah's not having any problems attacking San Francisco pressure. They're having no problem playing 94 feet. Miller catches, goes up, gets the contact late from Nodillo, and he's going to get a three-point opportunity and a chance to stretch Utah's lead to 11 once again.
Andre Miller, who's been a real stalwart defensively. Ryan Russell, number 10, coming in. Nodillo going out. Miller, a 76% free throw shooter, and Metala on the follow.
He's just too strong. They can't block him out. Metala having his way on the floor.
He has 8 points. The lead is 12, the biggest so far. 2 minutes left.
That really hurt. That was a 4-point sequence for Utah.
Hakeem Ward has hit, check that, he has 9 points in the game.
Ward stepped out on the perimeter that time, but if I'm anybody guarding him for Utah, he's got to prove that he can hit it from out there. And when I say prove it, he's got to hit more than one. I'm going to back off and allow him to take that shot.
Oh, Metala, nice top pass underneath. The ball knocked out of bounds by San Francisco. 18 to shoot for the Utes as they come in. Pennzoil at the half. Coming your way in about 1:33. Greg Gumbel, Clark Kellogg, and Dean Smith And they've got a lot to talk about, and some upsets, too, happening around the country. 19 to shoot. The Utes get it in play. Here's Jackson with Russell on him. McTavish a pickup. Metzeler with 8 to shoot. Jensen. McTavish for 3.
Wow. That's like a dagger right in the middle of the chest. You know, you play your solid defense, you move, and then late on the shot clock, you give up a 3. Also, you fall down by 13 points. It's very tough.
That's the biggest lead for Utah. Wilcher on the miss, an offensive rebound, and a foul call. That will get Campbell on the line to shoot 2. Foul is on Trace Caton, his first.
You know, I think for San Francisco, they're just going to have to decide, hey, we're going to play honest man-to-man defense. Each guy, your man is your responsibility. We can't afford to help because each time they leave someone open, that person ends up scoring for Utah. That's the only way they're going to get back into this game. They've got to decide that they are going to do it on the defensive end.
Campbell was shooting 2. That's the 10th team foul on Utah. Cobb's in. And Wilcher out for the Dons. 0 for 2. The ball with 1 minute left, claimed by Jackson. Utah the ball, up 13. Biggest lead of the game. They're in that area where they can play 2 for 1. Metzeler gets turned away right at the hoop. Sadat with the defensive play for San Francisco. A 13-point lead for the Utes. We're nearing halftime here at Boise. No shot clock involved. Ryan Russell controlling, and his pass goes out of bounds. Knocked out by McTavish. The 22nd timeout taken by Rick Majerus. 14.3 left in the half.
I think what he's probably going to tell his team, hey, let's not let them get the penetration and a kick out. And I think that's probably exactly what San Francisco is going to try to do with Cobbs with the basketball, get him into the paint area. Maybe if it's there, he can go all the way. If it's not, kick out, try to get an open shot.
Utah with a big size advantage in this game, and it has been a telling advantage to this point. San Francisco, coming into this game, had won its last 6. Philip Matthews, their head coach, bringing this program around back into the NCAA tournament. And as they won their conference tournament, the West Coast Conference. Cobbs under heavy pressure. And Cantrell gets it away. Ripped out of there by Utah as the first half comes to an end. 43-30. Rick Majerus and the Utes walking off with a 13-point lead. Now let's go to Mike Mayock.
I'm with Coach Majerus, and Rick, it looked like your big guys did a nice job. Doliak inside, controlling the paint.
Yeah. Kellogg and Dean Smith will be along with Pennzoil at the half after this message and a word from your local station.